All right, guys. Today we're going to look at communism in America. I'm hoping to wrap up this Cold War unit pretty with this video and another video. What you got to understand is communism and the fear of communism, the fear of the spread of communism, absolutely takes over everything in America from the 1950s until basically the early 1980s. If we look at our movies, we look at our pop culture. Remember Rocky. Rocky fights in Rocky IV. He fights the communists. When we go to the Olympics, we want to beat the Russians. Rambo, he's going against the communists. It's in our pop culture. It's in our comic books. It's in. It absolutely overtakes everything in America. All right, so it's this fear that communism is going to spread, and we see that people accused Truman, who was a Democrat, of being soft on communism. So to kind of play politics here, he sets up the Federal Employee Loyalty Program, which basically investigates all government employees. 3.2 million government employees are investigated. And through investigating 3.2 million employees, they found that 212 were worthy of being dismissed. So obviously not a big turnout. And it's not like communists were pervasive all through the government. But the fear of communism and accusations of communism is going to be very, very big during this time period. All right, so we see a committee is created in Congress, the House Un-American Activities Committee. They investigate the communism in Hollywood and the movie industry, that there's communist messages in movies and so forth. You can do a little Google search for the Hollywood 10 and hear their story. But basically, these individuals were accused of being communists. Their constitutional rights were violated. They were brought up on charges and so forth. And none of it really stuck. Everything was pretty much unfounded, but they were blacklisted. They lost their careers. Okay, we have Alger Hiss. Alger Hiss was accused of being a Soviet spy. He denies the accusations. He is not found guilty of spying or not found guilty of espionage, but he was found guilty of perjury. He kind of got off in a technicality. Later, we got information from the Soviets that he was, in fact, a Soviet spy, and he was guilty. So that's Alger Hiss, Soviet spy. What really perpetrated a lot of this fear is the fact that the Soviets, Russia, got the atomic bomb. We were the only country with the atomic bomb. Now the Russians have it. It was suspected that they were not supposed to get this for 3 to 5 years later. Instead, they get the atomic bomb in 1949. And the only solution anyone can come up with is that someone sold them the secrets. Someone leaked the secrets to them. So a physicist by the name of Klaus Fuchs admits to leaking the information back to the Soviets through a couple named the Rosenbergs. The Rosenbergs were Jewish, so a lot of anti-Semitism kind of played into this also, but they were accused of leaking that Fuchs was accused of leaking the information through the Rosenbergs back to the Soviets. They deny the charges, but however, they are found guilty of espionage, and they are both sentenced to death. Joseph McCarthy. Joseph McCarthy was a senator from Wisconsin. He's an alcoholic, and he was kind of struggling. He didn't really have a name for himself. He didn't really have a political identity. So what he does is he goes into the Senate, and he accuses. He says that the State Department, the Army, everyone is infested with communists. Okay, so he starts off, he says, oh, there's 20 communists, then there's 30 communists, then there's 50, the 100, and then the number keeps going up and up. He never really has any evidence to any of this, and we see oftentimes we use the term McCarthyism as accusing people of disloyalty or just throwing mud at someone and basically without really having any evidence. So, we see that McCarthy's going to have these witch hunts. He's going to go all through Congress. all through the Army, all through the State Department, and he never actually produces any solid evidence. And eventually, people get sick of his games. He loses his message. He loses his fan base. All right, so he targets the Army. He made accusations against the Army. It's nationally televised on TV, and this is really when he begins losing support. And people get tired of his message. So in essence, what we see, there's a lot of fear of communism. It's called the Red Scare in America. And we're going to see people are hunting all through for communists, whether in the State Department, whether in the Army, spies, whatever. They do find a couple spies. They do find some people leaking information. But by and large, there are not many communists in America.